All right, welcome everybody to In the Paint, Altitude Sports Radio 92.5. Dan Tanner here with you to break down the Denver Nuggets and Atlanta Hawks just finished up. The Nuggets get the 141-111 victory. So much to get into here on the post-game show tonight. I do want to get your comments as well. A lot of you were with me last night after what was one of the most embarrassing losses I can remember over the last 15 years in this team's history. So excellent response tonight from the Nuggets. This is something that I've talked about before. I always look for a team's response after you get embarrassed. I think that shows a lot about who this team is, their character, their identity, all of that stuff. So it was really good to see the Nuggets have not only just like a bounce back win, but they dominated the Hawks tonight on the second night of a back-to-back. For whatever reason, the Nuggets are just, over the last couple of years, have been excellent on the second nights of back-to-back. So great to see. Nikola Jokic was unbelievable again. After scoring 56 points last night, he gets 48 tonight in just 35 minutes. 17 of 29 from the field, another efficient shooting night, 14 rebounds, 8 assists for the big fella. I tweeted this out after the end of the third quarter, okay? So take away tonight's fourth quarter, which I'm surprised Malone didn't leave him in there to try to get 50, and they have 4 days off. So that was a little strange to me. I thought Malone would leave him in there to get 50, but it is what it is. But take away the fourth quarter tonight. Over Nikola Jokic's last 7 quarters, 97 points, 27 rebounds, and 15 assists. Just 7 quarters to get to those numbers. 97 points, 27 rebounds, 15 assists. He is obviously the clear frontrunner for MVP at this point in the season. He has been absolutely dominant this year. He's having the best season of his career statistically. Now, I know the Nuggets are having a bit of a disappointing season to this point, but as far as Nikola Jokic goes, I mean, where is this team at without Nikola Jokic? That's what you're looking for in an MVP. So, in fact, here are Jokic's numbers in the month of December. He's played in 5 games so far in December. 28 points, 14 rebounds, 11 assists. 38 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. 27 points, 20 rebounds, 11 assists. 56 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists. And then again tonight, 48 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists. He's averaging 39 points, 15 rebounds, and 9 assists so far in the month of December. He has been absolutely phenomenal. So again, just a fantastic bounce back win from the Nuggets. I'm always looking for how teams respond when they're in the pressure cooker, when they have an embarrassing loss to the worst team in the NBA like they did last night. How does this team respond? I think that can tell you a lot about a team, is how do you respond when you're going through rough stretches throughout the year. And tonight was a very positive sign. In fact, I want to pull this up, Jeff. I appreciate you chiming in, and I was going to bring this up on the show, so you did it for me. Nikola Jokic, after the game last night, this is from our guy Jeff, said, in my country, where I'm coming from, after this kind of stretch, you're going to get a paycheck that is a little bit less. Basically, what Nikola Jokic was saying is they have not played up to their potential, like, at all, to what they're getting paid, essentially. So Joker he also said last night, this team's going in the wrong direction. So it was a very candid Nikola Jokic in the locker room after their loss to the Wizards last night. And, I wouldn't have expected anything less. I mean, nobody was happy in that locker room last night. Coach Malone called it an incredibly embarrassing loss. The defense was atrocious, but that's what I loved about tonight's game. Not only did they score 141, that's great. This team's good enough offensively, and they have the best player in the world to put up numbers like that. So it's great that they scored 141, but what I'm most excited about was the defense tonight. They only give up 111, 23 points in that first quarter. I thought that was really important tonight. Joker actually talked about that before the game too. He said, the first quarter is going to be really important for us to get off to a good start defensively. And that's what they did tonight. They only gave up 23 points in that first quarter, 25 in the second. The Nuggets were hounding the Hawks on the defensive end for the majority of that first half. And they only give up 48 points at halftime to Atlanta. It was 71-48. Also, they did a fantastic job on Atlanta's best offensive weapon, Trae Young. His first basket of the night didn't come until the 3-minute and 20-second mark of the third quarter. So I've talked about how one of the biggest weaknesses on this team right now is perimeter defense. And I still believe that to be the case. Not that I don't believe it can get better, which I think it can. Honestly, at this point, it can only get better, if I'm being perfectly real with everybody, because it has been atrocious. But here's why the Nuggets blew out the Hawks tonight, everybody. They made 12 threes, and the Hawks made 9. And the Nuggets actually shot a much higher percentage from beyond the arc. They shot 44.5%. The Hawks shoot 22.5%. That's the key for this team. They've got to limit not only the volume of three-pointers made, but the percentage too. They've got to lower their percentage. It's been way too high over the course of this early season. And we saw that on display in Cleveland, and we saw that on display last night in Washington, but they turned it around tonight. So that's another really positive sign. I mean, the Hawks only shot 40.6% from the field in this game. The Nuggets shot 63%. So all of the metrics, just the eye test, I mean, everything that kind of went into this game was definitely a step in the right direction. Now, the Nuggets do have 4 days off before their next game on Friday. So they'll have time to get right. Jamal Murray didn't play again tonight. Aaron Gordon was in tonight after missing last night's game. He was obviously on another minutes restriction. I mean, he only played 23 minutes tonight. That's okay. 4 days off. Who knows? Is Jamal back on Friday? Is Aaron Gordon going to be on a minutes restriction on Friday? So this is a really good breather here for the Nuggets. In fact, the schedule actually is really favorable just as far as their time off for basically the rest of December. They have 4 days off until their game against the Clippers back at home on Friday. And then they have Saturday and Sunday off before going to Sacramento. And then they have Tuesday and Wednesday off before playing at Portland. And then they have Friday, Saturday off before playing Sunday, the 22nd at New Orleans. So this is a really good 5-6 game stretch here where the Nuggets have multiple days off between every game. Really good opportunity to get Jamal Murray right, get Aaron Gordon's calf right, get Nikola Jokic some obvious and much needed rest. He's played the second most minutes per game of any player in the NBA this season. So this break comes at a really, really good time for the Nuggets. We were talking last night about what changes potentially need to be made for this team. And by the way, I'm not going to overreact here. This is just one game. It was a great win. I still see a lot of issues with this team, including the backup center. Perimeter defense, I still think will be an issue, continue to be an issue, because I don't think they have the personnel that can to where they can be like a top 10 perimeter defensive team in the league. I just don't think they have the guys to do it. They can get better. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think they're going to be an elite perimeter defensive type of team this year. And that's okay. They just need to be like middle of the pack, because right now they're one of the worst defensive perimeter teams in the NBA. I did want to correct something last night. I had mentioned, possible trades for Jamal or MPJ. Jamal can't be traded this year. It's him and Aaron Gordon. I wasn't advocating for Aaron Gordon to be traded, but neither of them can be traded this year because they signed new deals in the offseason. Now, last night I said the best course of action, even if they could trade him, talking about Jamal Murray, would be to keep him and just hope that he returns to his former self, because his trade value has gone down so significantly. And you're obviously not trading Aaron Gordon. He's way too valuable of a player for this team. And it would be a big mistake for them to trade Aaron Gordon. The other player we were talking about is Michael Porter Jr. I do think of, if you're going to throw out Jamal or MPJ in any sort of trade in the next year or two, he probably would garner the most in a return. But I'll tell you what, something I've been noticing this season in regards to Michael Porter Jr., and I actually tweeted about this tonight, he's unlocked a new level in his game that is really, really working for him. He had 7 dunks tonight. And that's, I believe that was a career high. And he also tied a career high for points in the paint with 20. He is going to the rim, folks, like way more than we've ever seen. And that's why we're starting to see a more consistent Michael Porter Jr. He's not just settling for outside jump shots. He is going to the rim damn near every play. So that has been fantastic to see from Michael Porter Jr. Again, that's why we're seeing a more consistent MPJ this year. He had another great game again tonight. 12 of 17 shooting from the field. And he only hit 1 3. He was 1 of 5 from 3, but shot 12 of 17 overall for 26 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. His passing has also gotten much, much better this year. So if this is the Michael Porter Jr., this is the version or the player that the Nuggets are going to be getting moving forward, he can really help this team. He is no longer just an outside jump shooter. He is going to the rim. Now, whether that's been Coach Malone advocating for him to do that, whether that's been his teammates, mainly Nikola Jokic, telling him to do that more, or if that's just something he's picked up on his own, realizing he plays with the best passer in the NBA. If he cuts to the rim, he's going to get easy buckets. And we saw that over and over again tonight. And then you add in Russell Westbrook, who's a great passer too. He's great at those interior passes inside the painted area. And I'll tell you what, Michael Porter Jr. is a beast down low in the paint. He wasn't as effective at that earlier on in his career because, I just think he was a little bit too slender. But he's definitely put on weight, put on muscle mass. He's definitely bigger than he was in the first couple of years of his career. So he can handle that physicality low in the post. I still think he has a hard time moving over screens or getting around screens as far as the physicality of the game goes. I do think that is an area he continues to struggle in. But as far as being down in the painted area and letting guys like Nikola Jokic or Russell Westbrook find him has really unlocked a new level to his game. And that was on full display tonight. Again, obviously Joker was the best player on the court in this game. There's no question about it. But Michael Porter Jr. was easily the second best player on the floor tonight for either team. He was absolutely fantastic. And it's fantastic to see him not only unlocking the post play, like I just mentioned, but his passing. In fact, Altitude TV did a really good job of highlighting that in the pregame show. His passing has gone to another level as well. And you've got to wonder, like, all these guys practicing and playing with Nikola Jokic year after year, not only do they just see him make these ridiculous passes and probably want to be, or probably sitting there like, oh man, I would like to do that. But Joker is probably, telling these guys, like, you're better passers than you think. So again, that's just another area where I've seen a lot of growth this year from Michael Porter Jr. And this is where you start to put the pieces together and say, okay, if Aaron Gordon can come back and be healthy the rest of the year, if we see Michael Porter Jr. being consistent, not just settling for outside jump shots, getting 20 points in the paint like we saw tonight, which tied a career high, that's really where and then the big X factor is Jamal Murray. Can Jamal Murray come back and be the Jamal Murray of old. So excellent win tonight. All right, we got DMAC in here. What's up, D?
Dan, good to see you, pal.
See ya.
I didn't see that coming, but cool.
Well, DMAC, I started the show by saying what I always look for in teams after embarrassing losses like we saw last night is how do teams respond? And I think that shows a lot about, it really gives you an insight into who a team is. What character do these guys have? That's a good sign that they come into Atlanta and blow out the Hawks tonight. I think that showed us a lot about this team.
Yeah, Michael Malone, I was just watching his press conference just before I came on with you. And he said they had hey, man, let's air it out in the locker room. And Michael Malone said he was happy that he heard Jokic talk, that Jokic was verbal about it. And don't forget, last night, he gave us the classic in my country speech.
Yep.
So, in my country, like, dude, when you
that was a little interesting.
When you get the in my country speech, heads up, that's,
Well, you're saying the guy should be paid less, basically.
He should be, yeah, in my country, I was like, when are you, dragged in a field behind, 12 burros? I mean, like, what else happens in your country?
If you guys were working in my country, you'd be getting a pay cut, is basically what he said.
Yeah. What he said was, in my country, we wouldn't put up with this shit.
Yeah.
We wouldn't put up with this. That's what he's saying. And what he's saying is, I'm not going to put up with this shit. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, we've had a couple of memorable moments, man. We've had life outside basketball.
Yep.
And now we have in my country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another marker.
Put it down.
Check mark on the season, right? Maybe a turning point. You're right.
I hope so. Hey, by the way, where was Jamal tonight?
He was there. I saw Bennett from the Post tweeting out that he has been with the team on the whole road trip.
But where was he? Did I miss him on the bench?
I did not see him on the bench last night or tonight.
Okay. I didn't either. Know. Now, I'm not saying he wasn't there.
He's with the team. I know that.
I heard that. I did hear that he's with the team. You got any problems with him not being on the bench? Or?
I don't know. Pants Party here is saying he was on the bench. So I didn't see Jamal, but I will try to confirm. I know he wasn't last night, so I don't know. But it is a little strange. I mean, Aaron Gordon was there basically every game he was out that I can remember. I remember seeing him on the bench quite often. So it's just
if Jamal was on the bench and I just didn't catch it, hey, that's on me. I didn't see him last night.
He wasn't on the bench last night, according to a report I saw.
Okay. Right.
So it's a little odd. I mean, I don't know what the circumstances are.
How much are you buying that it's a hamstring injury?
Oh, I didn't really even think anything of it.
Yeah.
You're not buying it?
I think a lot of these guys are hurt. You know what I mean? Like, there's always something going on. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to sit it out because of X, Y, and Z, fine, whatever. But hamstring looked fine when he was walking away from Aaron Gordon when AG was trying to get into a little huddle the other night.
Yeah.
Okay in that moment. So, but I'm all for this, by the way. I think Jamal needs like a couple of weeks off. In my opinion. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. And it's kind of a quirky schedule, Dan, because they don't play again until Friday at home. Friday. Yeah. Like they had a 4-game stretch off, and that was before Life Outside Basketball. Remember that? That was before those games. And
that was before the first marker of the season.
That's right. That was the New Orleans game that Malone was, at his daughter's volleyball game.
Yeah.
And then they went to Memphis, and Jamal went to New York on a day off for an MMA fight, and then he scored 13 points the next day. And then they had a day off between playing Memphis again. They actually beat Memphis. They did win after that. But then it was, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win.
Your Christmas lights theory.
Right. Until 2 losses, with the second loss being the worst loss ever in the regular season. I mean,
at least in my lifetime, since I've been watching the Nuggets since the early 2000s.
You're going to have to stretch to give me a worse regular season loss than that one against Washington. It's going to be a stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of one. The circumstances, and so if you were on the other side, the contrarian, you could say, well, they were missing AG, they were missing Jamal. Jokic put up 56.
Yeah,
they should win that game against the worst team in the NBA.
We had Jordan Poole on a 2-win team giving the world's worst celebration of all time.
He had more three-pointers than the entire Nuggets team did last night, D-Mac.
They didn't really shoot a lot of three-pointers tonight. Not really. 27. The Hawks shot 40. And but the Hawks had a bad shooting night. But a lot of teams have a bad shooting night, Dan, when you get them down. Put the pressure on them, they'll probably shoot worse. But the Nuggets start lousy almost every game except for today. They started well today, and then they just kept it going. And by the way, taking Jokic out at 48 points, what are we doing? We gotta leave him in for one more possession, don't we?
It would have been the first Nuggets player in the organization's history to have back-to-back 50-point games.
How many guys in NBA history have had back-to-back 50-point games on back-to-back nights?
I mean, I'm not sure. I can look it up, but I would assume not many. I would assume it's a handful, right?
Right.
Now, so here's the thing, too. To your point, like they have 4 days off, so why not just play in the rest? Was it a minute 50 left in the game?
Dude, I couldn't believe when they were taking him off the court at 48 points.
Yeah, and Malone strikes me as the coach that's like, get in there and get him his 50. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who would have kept him in there. Dion. He would have kept him in there to get 50.
Dion would have kept him in there. I'll tell you. I'll tell you else who would have kept him in there. JJ Redick would have kept LeBron in there.
But the other side of me says he's playing the second most minutes of any player in the NBA. For the love of God, get him some rest.
One more possession. I wasn't saying, hey, play out the last 2 minutes with PJ Hall. I'm just talking about like you get one more possession to make a bucket.
Well, he had the possession and it was a bad pass turnover and then he gets yanked.
One more possession.
But yeah, it's like, golly, man, 4 days off. I'm with you. Like, you got to leave him in there. We
got to find out who in NBA history has 2 50-pointers on back-to-back nights. Not back-to-back games, because I'm sure that has happened. I'm sure it has. But back-to-back nights. Back-to-back. I mean, are we going back to like, you know what? I don't even know Wilt Chamberlain back in those days. I don't think they played back-to-back nights. I don't think so. But I'm not, Larry Bird certainly played back-to-back nights. I mean, the 80s did. So it's probably one of those guys.
I don't have back-to-back nights, D-Mac, but I do have back-to-back 50-point games. Only 12 players in NBA history have accomplished that.
So it could have only happened 12 times. Well, all right. How many of those were?
At least according to this article back in 2020. I don't know if it's happened since then, but Damian Lillard in 2020 with the Blazers, I'm seeing a tweet saying he was the 12th player in NBA history with back-to-back 50-point games.
Well, it might have happened once or twice since then, actually. But
yeah.
I could see Anthony Edwards or Giannis or I don't know, somebody like that.
Yeah.
Something.
But
Anyway.
But he's playing the second most minutes of any player in the NBA. Like I
get
get what you're saying, but I also understand Malone's thinking there.
It's all right. They kicked the shit out of Atlanta. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and it was a great win. Now, I did want to ask you, D-Mac, last night I was talking about was last night the game where it made the front office like fully understand that serious changes needed to be made. And look, this is just one game against the Hawks. It was a great win, but I still think there's a lot of problems with this team that are persistent. Jamal Murray being number one. I mean, that's just plainly obvious.
Yeah.
But so you can't trade Murray this year. You can't because of the contract. You can't trade AG either. I wasn't advocating for Aaron Gordon, but let's just go on the assumption, okay, that you could trade Jamal Murray this year. Last night I said, with how he's played so far this year, D-Mac, his value has plummeted. as far as his trade, what you would get in return if you traded him, I think. So I think the best course of action, and this can kind of just go into next year too, when you can trade him, I think the best thing that the Nuggets can hope for is basically you got to keep Jamal and hope that he can return to form. Because here's the thing, D-Mac, we've seen it from Jamal before. Like, we know it's in there. He's done it in some of the biggest moments in this organization's history, in the playoffs and in the finals. Like, we know it's there. And he's 27. Like, he should be in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that the best course of action for the team is to just keep playing Jamal like you normally would, and just hope he returns to form.
I think, well, they are giving him a bit of a break, right? Because they don't play until Friday, and he didn't play in these past 2 games. And you had the day off before that, right? So
give him the whole month off. I don't care.
Well, they're essentially giving him 8 days off. Okay. So I gotta look at the rest of their schedule. I wouldn't be opposed. That's 8 days. Then you got the Clippers on the 13th. Then you got the Sacramento on the 16th, and then you don't play again till the 19th.
Yeah.
So,
and that's at another bad team against Portland.
And in all honesty, that's a 1, 2, 3, 4 games. Like, I'd be okay, man, if you want to sit Jamal down and just have him get his head together for 4 games.
Those are 4 very winnable games without Jamal Murray.
I agree. Sacramento's really struggling. Clippers are the Clippers. New Orleans terrible. Portland's terrible.
Portland's rebuilding. Yeah.
It would. You know what, man? Here's what I would. They can do whatever they want, and maybe he's back on Friday. Okay, fine. But I would be fine to give him off until Monday the 23rd, home game against Phoenix, and that means he would have had Golden State. No, wait. He played against Cleveland, right? He played against Cleveland. So that would be the 6th through the 23rd. That'd be 2 weeks. That'd be 16
Pretty good.
days. That'd be
Pretty
2
good.
weeks. Don't you think?
Yeah.
And in those 2 weeks, get your head together, get in shape, get in some better shape.
Yeah.
These guys are really, really fine-tuned athletes. If you give one of these guys 2 weeks to really buckle down and physically, they can do it. They can have a dramatic turnaround in a short period of time. And if you just tell them, listen, you're going to work on your health, rehab your hamstring, but we're also going to do this other conditioning to help you get in, and watch your diet maybe and the whole thing. And I think that's fair to give him that time before we consider doing anything. It's only 4 more games, right? And we had Michael Malone on the radio show, and it was interesting, Dan, how he broke things up into 20-game chunks. I thought that was pretty interesting. And you remember when he said, listen, if we go 15-5 or 14-6, it's all good. And I'm like, well, he's right. He is right about that. And their first 20, they went 11-9, and things were terrible, right? So I think the floor there, Dan, is 13-7. That's the floor, though. And even 13-7, there's an eyebrow. But if you go 14-6, 15-5, you're good. You're fine.
Yeah.
You know what? That's all right. And that'll put you halfway through the season, and likely you don't have to make any major changes if you can pull that off. So, Dan, do you think they can pull that off? 14-6, 15-5. They're 1-1 right now.
They absolutely can because the schedule eases up. And not only just the level of competition, but like you just mentioned, like D-Mac, their next 6 games, they don't have a back-to-back. In fact, each one of those games, they have at least 2 days off in between.
Mm-hmm.
So the level of the opponent isn't super high, and they've got extra rest days in between. So if they're going to do something like that, this is the time of year to do it.
Right.
You know, like if they're not going to do it here, when are they going to do it? So yeah, I absolutely think they can do that. And like you said, hopefully by that point in the next 16 days or whatever it is, if Jamal's out that long, he comes back in better shape, better mental headspace, and he's kind of back to being the Jamal Murray of old. Like that, you know, I know you said that maybe this is just who Jamal is, and I do kind of agree with you, but the more that I think about it, I don't think this is who Jamal is.
I hope it isn't.
Because
I
we've
hope you're right.
seen him do it multiple. It wasn't just like one stretch in the playoffs. We've seen it a bunch of different times in his career. Now the problem with Jamal is he's never put it together for like a 2 or 3 year stretch, and obviously there was the ACL tear in there that obviously hampered some of that as well. But like, it's really hard for me, DMAC, to believe that this is just who Jamal is because of what we've seen in the past and because of how old he is. He should be in the physical prime of his career, theoretically. I guess that's really kind of what the hope for me and a lot of Nuggets fans is Jamal just figures it out and gets back to form.
All right. I agree. I'm with you on that.
Hey, last thing, DMAC, before I let you go.
Yes, sir.
You know what's been really cool to see too is Michael Porter Jr., I think, has unlocked a new level to his game.
Dude, what do you have, 8 dunks tonight?
Well, Vic tweeted out 7, but he might have had one more. But it was a career high either way. Yeah. And he tied a career high for points in the paint with 20. Yeah. He is going to the rack this year, dude. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, you know, like you want to see a more consistent Michael Porter Jr.? Well, that's how you do it.
No doubt.
He's no longer just an outside jump shooter. That's why he's been so inconsistent, because he only takes jump shots for the most part.
Yeah, does everybody realize he's freaking 6'10"?
I think he just figured that out. That's what it looks like. Like he finally realized that. And
dude
by the way,
huge. He's like huge guy.
He realizes I'm 6'10".
Yeah.
I've got the best passer in the world on my team.
Yeah.
And Russell Westbrook is a great passer in the interior of the low post area.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, man, like if the Nuggets get this version of MPJ where his bread and butter is in the low post and he's dominating down there like he did tonight, man, that's another really positive sign, at least for me, coming out of tonight's game. And he's been doing it the whole year, not just tonight.
Here's the scary thing. I think he's played well, really well. I think your number 3 guy, and he wasn't the number 3 guy, he was the number 2 guy, played like it. And frankly, he has been playing like it. And he hasn't been shooting that great, but he's figuring out different ways to do things, like you mentioned. And yes, you are 6'10", so go play like you're 6'10". But here's the tricky part. He does have a tradable contract.
Yeah.
So if trades need to be made to make the team better, it might be difficult to trade Jamal, but do you get a bigger bang for your buck by trading MPJ for whatever missing piece is going on with Jamal? Do you do that?
Oh, he's their most valuable trade asset right now.
But like, would you trade Michael Porter Jr. to get the role that you need out of Jamal? You can't trade Jamal and you just sit Jamal on the bench and he comes off the bench.
No, I wouldn't do that, because then you're kind of slapping a Band-Aid on it. You know?
Well, I mean, okay. But is Jamal better to be coming off the bench?
Maybe. But is he going to be?
Hey, okay, in my country.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask it this way, DMAC. Yeah. Is Jamal Murray going to play better with or without Nikola Jokic?
With.
So why bring him off the bench?
We're talking about if he should be on the team or not, Dan. So maybe he doesn't come off the bench. I don't know.
Yeah.
But seriously, maybe he just sits on the bench. Dude, I don't know. In my country. Dude,
so you're saying like just bench him, like,
yeah.
Period. Take him out of the rotation.
What did Nikola Jokic say, Dan? What did he say? In
my country, people that play like ass get demoted.
That's what he said. They don't get
basically
paid,
what he said.
Or they sit on the bench.
Yeah.
That's what Nikola Jokic said.
Do you think he was talking about Jamal there?
Not. Well, I mean, Jamal
not specifically, but
Jamal didn't even play in that game. But I mean, like in general, what do you think? They didn't see Jamal wave off AG when they were trying to have that little team meeting?
Well, to be fair, the whole team kind of waved him off. It wasn't just Jamal.
Michael Porter Jr. was kind of walking away. He didn't see him. But very specifically, AG was waving directly at Jamal Murray. And Jamal saw him and walked off. That's different than Michael Porter, who was not in AG's sight line.
No, you're right. That's not a good look. Considering everything else that's going on, that's a really bad
look. What
look.
are we doing here? I'll tell you this. You know who's going to play with energy? is Russell Westbrook if he's starting, Peyton Watson if he's starting, Christian Brown if he's starting. And if Jamal is just sad sack sitting on the bench, I mean, that's where he was tonight, I think, or kind of, or somewhere. And they just beat a good Atlanta team by 30.
Yeah.
So, and man, listen, Jamal, I hope you get it together, but like, he is like in a shit mood all the time, Dan.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody who is in constantly like a bad mood more than Jamal Murray.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on in his life, but like being around somebody who's always in a bad mood.
Yeah.
It's a drag.
Yep. And we're both at the games and I see it too. Yeah. And you're right. Like more than Jamal's never been the warmest of personalities by any stretch of the imagination, but it does seem to have taken on a different stratosphere this year. Real quick, Andon says, why can't they trade Jamal? Well, we're just talking specifically. They cannot trade him this year because he signed a new contract in the offseason. So they like NBA bylaws say he cannot be traded this season. That's all we're saying. But yeah, it's bad mood all the time. You're right. And you know, maybe there is stuff going on in his personal life, DMAC. I don't know, but we've talked about this. Like, don't bring your stuff into work.
Right.
Man.
So I would say give him 2 weeks. He can go sit on a beach, go to as many MMA fights as he wants, go find a rocky bluff somewhere with clouds. I don't know. Whatever you got to get maybe he can just jog up there so he can get some fitness in while he's contemplating life. Whatever it takes, whatever he needs to do. But dude, you can't show up every single day in a crappy mood and expect that energy not to go through you into the team. So whatever it is, bro, even if you got to fake it. And hey, man, Russell Westbrook brings forth a different energy. AG has a different energy. Jokic is by nature a lighthearted, fun guy.
Right.
You know, DeAndre Jordan is like that. There's a lot of good dudes on that team that bring some lightness to the situation, right? But there's Jamal, freaking sourpuss every goddamn day, and it's a drag. Now, listen, if you're a sourpuss and you're putting up 30 points on like, I don't know, man, 13 of 17 shooting, 3 of 7 from 3, you know what I'm saying? One of them nights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Be as big of sourpuss as you want if you're putting up those numbers. Go to as many MMA fights as you want if you're coming back the next night and putting up 35. Who cares?
And essentially, that's Nathan McKinnon, right? That's Nathan.
Yeah.
He's that. He's the sourpuss.
Yep.
But he's also unbelievable. So, okay, you figure it out.
Yep.
You can't be both. You can't be a lousy player and a sourpuss at the same time. You cannot. You cannot. It's too much of an energy suck from the rest of the team.
That's so true. Can you be too positive and be a bad player?
Yeah. I mean, that's like the Hunter Tyson energy. Like, you know, there's a lot of.
I was thinking more Russell Wilson, but not that he had a bad year last year, but like the amount of
it can work
over positivity is just ridiculous.
It can work the other way too. It can definitely work the other way too.
All right, D, I'll let you go, man. Right, good win for the Nuggets tonight. Thanks for jumping on, dude.
You got it, pal.
All right, there he goes, D-Mac. You know, like I said, D-Mac and I are both at every home game covering the team, and you know, it is what it is. Like, Jamal is who he is. He's never been the warmest personality towards the media, at least. And I know people don't care because we're the media, and who cares? I don't care. All I'm saying is that it seems to have taken on a new level this year for just his like really nonchalant, pissy sort of attitude. And that's really the only way that I can say it. But D-Mac's right. You know, if you're putting up 30 points a night, like nobody's going to care. But if you're putting up 13 points in a game where you travel to New York the night before when your team's on a road trip, and then you know, come back and that's what you're producing, that's when people are going to start getting frustrated. And that's where your teammates and your coaching staff and your front office is going to start getting frustrated. So, I just think Jamal needs a mental reset and probably a physical reset too, because he hasn't looked right really since the end of the playoffs last year. I've talked about this before. He was dreadful in the Olympics for Team Canada. And we're, a month and a half into the season, and it basically looks the same. Like he hasn't, I said at the beginning of the season, because Jamal did come into camp out of shape. I mean, there's no question about that. I think anybody that just kind of has seen how he moved in the past, how he looked in the past to now, it's very obvious that he came into camp out of shape. He started the season out of shape. But I was on the optimistic side. I'm saying, well, a lot of guys play their way into shape. Basketball is an extremely cardiovascular type sport. You're running like crazy. And we used to see this with Nikola Jokic earlier on in his career. He doesn't come to camp out of shape anymore. But early on in Joker's career, he'd come in to start the season a little pudgy. And he'd honestly have somewhat, for Joker, for his level, he would have slow starts to the season relative to what he normally is. But we're a month and a half into the season, and we haven't seen Jamal Murray play his way into shape. So, maybe DMAC's right. Cardio over these next 2 weeks if he's going to be out for that long. We don't know. He could be back Friday for all we know. There has been no reports on if he's going to be out for an extended period or not. I do know hamstrings are a very fickle injury. Same with the calf strain that Aaron Gordon's dealing with. In fact, he was out last night. He was questionable coming into tonight's game and gave it a go, but clearly wasn't his explosive self. And he only played 23 minutes, but I applaud AG for gutting it out. But yeah, this game tonight was a really good response from the Nuggets. And that's what I'm looking for. How do teams respond when they're in the fire? When they're going through bad, rough stretches in a season, how do you respond? I think that says a lot about a team's character and a lot about a team's competitive nature. So that was a very positive sign tonight for me from the Nuggets. I mean, especially considering what happened last night, it just felt like, I know it wasn't, but it just had that feeling of like, oh my God, this season is over. So it was good to see them respond like they did tonight. They obliterated the Hawks. 141-111 is your final. Nikola Jokic, 48 points tonight after 56 last night. He is your clear MVP frontrunner. And I don't want to hear crap about, well, the Nuggets are only 12-10. Can you have an MVP that's only 12-10? They'd have 2 or 3 wins this year if not for Nikola Jokic. That's what I would tell people that I would love to hear the argument from like the national media right now. Make your case why Nikola Jokic should not be the front runner for MVP. I mean, it is just plainly obvious that he is, through the first month and a half of the season, far and away the runaway MVP winner. He's having the best start to his career that he's ever had, and he's already won 3 MVPs. So good for the Nuggets tonight. Awesome 2-game stretch for Nikola Jokic personally, and a great win against the Hawks tonight after just an awful, embarrassing loss to the worst team in basketball last night. So that's going to do it for the post-game show tonight. Quick update on the Avs game. There's 9 minutes to go in the third period, and the Avs have a 3-0 lead over the New Jersey Devils. Goals from Arturi Lehkonen, Logan O'Connor, and Ross Colton, who is back in the lineup. So looking like, knocking on wood, looking like we're going to get a double dipperoo win for both teams tonight. So make sure to tune in, 10, 15 minutes after the Avs game ends. Alex Ryanemi and Mark Springer will be bringing you Avalanche post-game coverage as well. But once again, the final, the Nuggets 141, Hawks 111. Their next game coming up on Friday at Ball Arena against the LA Clippers. That's going to do it for the post-game show tonight. This has been In the Paint on Altitude Sports Radio. Thanks so much. Good night, everybody.